Welcome everybody to the strange and scary mysteries of the month, where we find the creepiest true crime stories from all around the world currently going down and lay them out here for you to check out. Thanks so much for tuning in to Scary Mysteries today. Here are the strange and scary mysteries of the month for August 2025. Number 5. Murder at Devil's Den. It was July 26, 2025 at Devil's Den State Park in Arkansas. Now, tucked into the Ozark Mountains, Devil's Den is a rugged, forested escape with winding trails, hidden caves, and crystal clear creeks. It's a place to go to disconnect, though not to disappear. That Saturday, Clinton and Kristen Brink, ages 43 and 41 respectively, were hiking with their two daughters who were only 7 and 9. And their third child wasn't with them that day. It was a sort of wholesome family outing that gets posted to social media. Fresh air out amongst nature, but by the time the sun dipped below the tree line, Clinton and Kristen would be dead, brutally stabbed on that trail, and their daughters were left to witness the aftermath of something no child should ever see. They had simply come across the wrong person that day. And Clinton was attacked first, stabbed about a half mile into the hike. Kristen, in an act of maternal instinct and bravery, rushed her daughters to safety before turning back to help her husband, but by then it was too late. He was severely wounded, and Kristen never made it out alive. And the most terrifying aspect about something like this is the complete randomness of it. This was just a good family outing that turned into a bloodbath in the blink of an eye. There was no robbery, no motive, just a sudden, frenzied attack. And on top of all that, the perpetrator happened to be someone that many people trusted to keep their kids safe. He was a teacher.
We responded to a call for service at the state parks. Two young children were found and indicated that something had happened to their parents on the trail.
For days after the murders, there were no answers as to who had done this. Just a growing fear that someone capable of that kind of violence was still out there and they might attack again. But then, less than a week later, authorities arrested Andrew McGann at a barber shop in Springdale, just 30 miles from where the murders took place. Through a combination of DNA, eyewitness accounts, and surveillance, they were able to hone in on the 28-year-old. During questioning, he didn't put up much of a fight and confessed to what he had done, just like that. He admitted to murdering two strangers in a state park and gave no reason why. McGann wasn't someone who was the usual suspect. He had no priors and nothing alarming in his background that would have raised red flags. But if you look closely, the signs, however faint, were there. After graduating college, Andrew pursued a career in education, working as a teacher in multiple states: Texas, Oklahoma, and most recently Arkansas. In 2023, while teaching at an elementary school in Flower Mound, Texas, he was placed on administrative leave after staff raised concerns about how he was managing his classroom. Now, the details haven't been made public, but whatever happened wasn't enough to terminate him outright. He simply moved on and passed background checks in 2 Oklahoma school districts after that. Now, there have been rumblings about how he loved to play tag out at recess with the kids, but it was only with the girls, and he did it every day.
Multiple other parents made allegations that he was having inappropriate contact with their daughters.
Andrew was expected to begin a new teaching job in Northwest Arkansas on August 11th, just 2 weeks after the murder. Meaning, while authorities searched for answers, McGann was calmly preparing for the school year. Now, so far, the police say the attack was random, and maybe it was, but random doesn't mean meaningless. Was it some sort of mental break, or had something darker been simmering just beneath the surface for years? Without a true psychiatric evaluation or trial testimony, for now, the only person who knows the truth is McGann. But in time, we'll all get more details. Right now, we just have 2 lives taken and 2 daughters traumatized, a third child left without parents. in a community struggling to understand how someone entrusted with teaching kids could so suddenly turn into a killer. Number 4. No choice but revenge. On a quiet October night in rural Arkansas, 911 dispatchers picked up a call from a desperate father who, in a panicked voice, told them his 13-year-old daughter was missing. Just hours later, that same man would call back, this time saying the guy who kidnapped his daughter was dead. The person who killed him was him. This is the case of Aaron Spencer, a decorated war vet, devoted father, and now a man standing trial for murder. Aaron had already been through one war zone, but what happened to his daughter was something no battlefield ever prepared him for. Because back in July of 2024, 67-year-old Michael Fossler, resident of Lone Oak County, Arkansas, was arrested on 43 separate charges. Essay of a minor, internet stalking, child enticement, that sort of thing. And his alleged victim was Aaron's daughter. Now, the details as to how this old man got in touch with her in the first place is murky, but it happened, and over time he took advantage of his seniority over her. And the charges were heinous, but Fossler made bail, and he was released back into the world. Of course, he couldn't contact the daughter again or even come close to the Spencer house, though that didn't stop him. And 3 months later, on October 8th, Aaron woke up to his dog barking. He went to check on his daughter and found her bedroom empty. That's when he called 911 at around 1 a.m. to report her missing, telling dispatchers he believed she was with Fossler. And he didn't wait around, he got right in his truck and went looking. What happened over the next hour wasn't a chase, it was more of a hunt. At some point in the neighborhood, Spencer spotted Fossler's white Ford F-150 turning onto Highway 236 East. He followed close and flashed his lights and honked his horn. He could see his daughter sitting in the passenger seat, but Fossler wasn't stopping. And so, at the intersection of Highway 236 East and 13 North, Aaron rammed his vehicle into the back of Fossler's, sending it careening into a ditch. Spencer jumped out, Glock in hand, and ordered Fossler out of the vehicle. His daughter tried to get out, but according to Aaron, Fossler grabbed her and wouldn't let go. He then says Fossler stepped out of his truck with something in his hand and lunged at him, and that's when Spencer opened fire. He shot him multiple times in the chest, arms, and stomach. Then he jumped on top of the dying man and pistol whipped him. When police recovered the gun, they found blood on the outside of the weapon and the magazine was empty. Spencer then called 911 once again at 1:47 a.m. The man who kidnapped his daughter, he said, was dead on the side of the road, and he told dispatchers he had no choice. The next day, Aaron bonded out of jail. His mugshot didn't show a wild-eyed vigilante. It showed a composed man with military bearing who looked like he still hadn't fully processed what he had done. On November 27th, prosecutors formally charged Spencer with second-degree murder and a weapons offense. Immediately, the court of public opinion exploded. Spencer's legal team issued a defiant statement calling Spencer a decorated war hero who protected his country and a loving father whose heroic actions protected his family.
Aaron Spencer is not a criminal. He was absolutely fearful for her life. Not to mention that she had been repeatedly the subject of multiple assaults, violent assaults on a child.
They said Fossler had repeatedly violated Spencer's child and kidnapped her in the dark of night to continue his assaults. Their statement accused prosecutors of perpetuating trauma instead of protecting victims, and they thanked the public for rallying behind Spencer. The official trial is set to begin on September 22nd of this year, and Spencer has pled not guilty, and his defense will likely hinge on self-defense and the defense of others, specifically his daughter. The question the jury will have to answer is basic, but not so simple. Was Aaron justified, or did a hero become a killer? For some, the case is cut and dry. The man was a predator and he got what was coming to him. End of story. But others argue that justice can't exist without law, and that letting emotions govern outcomes sets a dangerous precedent. What do you think?
We feel very confident that this community is going to come to Aaron's side because every one of them would have done the same thing for their child or their neighbor's child or a member of their family.
Number 3, did toxic waste create serial killers? There's always been a question hiding just behind the headlines, something most people never even really thought to ask. And it is, why were so many serial killers in the Pacific Northwest during the 70s and 80s? Ted Bundy, Gary Ridgway, Randall Woodfield, and more. Now, for years, people chalked it up to bad luck or maybe just coincidence. But now one author is asking, what if it wasn't just a bunch of psychopaths who were born in the same place? What if they were actually created, and that perhaps the real answer has been right there in the soil, the air, and in their blood? This is the chilling theory behind Murderland, the new book by Pulitzer Prize-winning author Caroline Fraser, who's digging into a disturbing and very interesting idea. Did environmental toxins help create an entire generation of serial killers? There's no denying that the Pacific Northwest was ground zero for some of America's most infamous murderers. Ted Bundy, born in Vermont but raised in Tacoma, Washington. Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer, was born and raised in Salt Lake City but moved to Washington early and killed at least 49 women. Randall Woodfield, the I-5 Killer, also Pacific Northwest. Which, by the way, we covered his story in depth on an episode of Everytown, so link is down below for that if you're interested. There were also lesser knowns like Kenneth Bianchi, one of the Hillside Stranglers, all active during a tight window between the late 60s and mid-80s. It was all enough to make Caroline wonder if something deeper was going on. Now she lays out a theory that's equal parts science, history, and horror that may explain it. As she grew up in Tacoma, the very city Bundy did, and she remembers what it was like then. The air there stung your throat, and the sky had an unnatural haze. And right at the heart of it all was the Asarco smelter, a giant refinery that pumped lead, arsenic, cadmium, and sulfur dioxide into the environment for decades. The region actually became one of the most polluted in the entire country. And in places like Commencement Bay, where kids played and families lived, the soil tested thousands of times above safe levels for toxins. So Fraser's question is a fair one. Could this exposure have damaged young brains just enough to lower empathy, boost aggression, and fuel the birth of multiple serial killers?
And the more I read about lead pollution and lead, the association with aggression and violence, the more I wondered, is there a story to be told here about this issue?
It might sound like a stretch until you realize the lead crime hypothesis isn't anything new. Decades of research have shown a link between lead exposure in childhood and violent behavior in adulthood. The toxin attacks the developing brain, especially areas that govern impulse control, empathy, and decision-making. In fact, some experts argue that the drop in crime across the US in the 1990s wasn't because of better policing or forensics, but because leaded gasoline was finally banned in the late 70s, and a new generation grew up breathing cleaner air. So when you place someone like Bundy or Ridgway in that context, a violent home, social rejection, and now toxic exposure during key brain development years, you don't get sympathy, but you might start to understand the chemical chaos that could have been simmering beneath the surface. Fraser doesn't say the toxins caused murder, but they may have been a hidden accelerant, something that tipped already fragile minds into full-blown predators. And what's crazy is that no one's looked into this before. True crime fans and experts are all over the place, but the stories tend to focus on the psychological profile. Abuse, abandonment, childhood trauma. all the things we can see and confirm. But what if we've been ignoring a crucial environmental piece of the puzzle? Fraser's book weaves her personal memoirs of Tacoma's toxic haze with the birthplace of murderers, and sure enough, a pattern emerges. Smelters, Superfund sites, industrial runoff, heavy metal exposure, right in the same zip code as America's worst killers. As she writes, "We know what pollution does to children. We've known for decades, but we've never asked what it does to killers." So, what to do with this information? I mean, do we say Bundy was a victim of circumstance? Do we excuse the Green River Killer because he breathed in heavy metals as a kid? No, obviously not. But if environmental toxins had a role, even a small one, then it means this horror wasn't random. It was built, piece by piece, poison by poison. And that leads to a darker realization. If pollution helped create a wave of serial killers back then, well, what's happening now? Because heavy industry hasn't gone away. Contamination zones still exist, and children are still being exposed. And if Fraser's right, the next wave may already be growing up. Number 2, The Lost Boy of Newburyport. Back in August of 1988, 15-year-old Anthony Ray disappeared from the Harbor School, a therapeutic boarding school located in Newbury, Massachusetts. The faculty, which has since shut down, was known for housing teens with behavioral and emotional challenges. Interestingly, the exact close-down date is not official, so chances are it was a private facility and kind of gives off True Detective Season 1 vibes with the whole Tuttle family. Despite going missing for years, Anthony's name barely made a ripple in the media. Whether it was due to his age, his background, or the nature of the school, his disappearance never garnered much attention. It's the kind of case that quietly slips through the cracks, just another lost teen in the system. 4 years later, on November 28th of 1992, someone walking along a stretch of Interstate 95 in Newburyport stumbled upon skeletal remains partially buried in the marsh grass. The body had been there for a while. There was no soft tissue left, just bone and decay. An autopsy confirmed the remains belonged to a male teenager, but without fingerprints, dental records, or a missing persons report that matched, there was little to go on. Forensic teams tried everything available at the time: age estimation, facial reconstruction sketches, even composite drawings, but nothing stuck. And the team became known only as a John Doe, another tragic entry among many in the stack of cold case files across America. For the next 30 years, police revisited the case every once in a while to take a fresh look. But as it turns out, what they really needed to do was wait for science to catch up and do its thing. Enter Othram, a private forensic lab in Texas, specializing in solving cold cases through DNA sequencing and forensic genealogy. Using just a tiny fragment of those remains, Othram scientists were able to extract usable DNA, something traditional methods had failed to do. They built a complete profile from scratch. Then, using a genealogical database, they followed the DNA like a thread, connecting it piece by piece to living relatives. The search eventually led to one name: Anthony Ray, the boy who'd gone missing back in '88. Born in 1973 and raised in Malden, Massachusetts, Anthony was a kid with a troubled past, sure, but not someone who deserved to be dumped off the side of a highway and left forgotten for decades. The cause of death is still undetermined, and the condition of the remains made it impossible for forensic analysis to figure out what killed him, which means we don't know if Anthony was strangled, stabbed, shot, or if he died from neglect, an overdose, or exposure. And we just know that he died alone and somebody left him there. And that someone may still be out there. His family so far has not released any public statement on the case as of the making of this video, so you can make of that what you will. Authorities are now asking the public for help. investigators with the Massachusetts State Police Unresolved Case Unit want to know, who was the last person to see Anthony alive? What happened to him in the days after he left or was taken from the harbor school? If you have any info about the disappearance or death of Anthony, call 855-MA-SOLVE, because someone knows what happened, and it's time they finally said something. Number 1. The Lake County Massacre. You never expect the monster to come from within your own circle, but in a quiet stretch of rural Tennessee, that's exactly what happened when a trusted friend of the family allegedly turned into a cold-blooded executioner. Now, this started with a welfare check. Deputies rolled up on a dirt road in Lake County on July 29, 2025, not expecting to uncover one of the most disturbing scenes the state had seen in years. But 4 bodies were right there, dumped along the road, with one of them being just 15 years old. And on top of that, a baby was found still strapped in a car seat, abandoned in someone's front yard like a delivery no one ordered, but thankfully left otherwise unharmed. The man accused of carrying it all out had vanished into thin air, so for over a week the community stayed inside, locked their doors, and waited, until ordinary citizens helped bring it all to an end. This is the case of Austin Drummond and the slaughter of the Rose Williams family.
Officers say this is Austin Drummond caught on camera around Pipkin Road, and it appears that he is holding a rifle. And that's why local, state, and federal investigators are warning everyone who lives in that area to lock their doors tonight.
Courtney Rose was a mother of 3. Her daughter, Adriana, was only 20. Her boyfriend, James, was 21, and the youngest, Braden, just 15. They were all found shot to death off a road in Lake County, and it was a rural execution. The person police were looking for was 28-year-old Austin Drummond, and he wasn't some random stranger, and he was dating Courtney's sister, Caitlin. He knew them all very well. Now, the two of them had an on-again, off-again relationship, and at the time of the killings, they were off. Police said the true motive was still under investigation, but it looks like it was a way for Austin to get back at the woman who broke his heart. And that infant, Adriana and Michael's child, was found in Dyer County, just miles away from the bodies. A random homeowner had come outside and saw the baby sitting in a car seat, left right there in the front yard. The baby was actually discovered before the 4 victims and was the first clear sign something horrific had happened. The investigation went into overdrive, and with Drummond named as the prime suspect, law enforcement across multiple counties went on high alert. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation declared him armed and dangerous. A $30,000 reward was put on the table. All across Jackson and the surrounding areas, people were told to keep their eyes peeled and be on the lookout. As the days passed, the fear grew. Drummond had completely vanished. That is until Tuesday, August 5th, 9 days after the murders. At around 8 a.m. that day, someone spotted a man near a vacant building in Jackson, Tennessee, and he looked a lot like the guy on the news, so they called 911. Then another call came in, and then another. By 8:57 a.m., police had pinpointed the location. Officers surrounded the woods, and come 9:05 a.m., the manhunt was over. Drummond was arrested without incident.
Quadruple murder and kidnapping suspect Austin Drummond is in custody tonight. A relieving end to a nearly week-long search, but authorities say the case is far from over.
He was out there hiding amongst the trees, unarmed, but nearby police later recovered several guns, each now undergoing forensic testing to determine which ones, if any, were used in the killings. In the aftermath of the arrest, officials praised the community. Jackson Police Chief Tom Corley called it a textbook example of cooperation.
It's a powerful example of what can happen when law enforcement agencies work together with the community who have a shared mission and a singular focus.
Drummond now faces 4 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of aggravated kidnapping, 4 counts of being a felon in possession of a firearm, and 1 count of possession of a firearm during a dangerous felony. That's not all. During the manhunt, police arrested 4 other individuals accused of helping Drummond after the fact. They haven't released those names yet, but the charges signal something serious. I mean, if people were helping him hide, the question becomes why? Did they know what he had done, or were they possibly involved? This wasn't just a killing, it was a massacre, and it shattered an entire family. A mother and her 2 kids gone, a young couple slaughtered, and a baby left behind to grow up without any parents. And so there were the strange and scary mysteries of the month for July 2025. Hope you enjoyed the episode. If you want to stay updated on cases like this, remember to subscribe. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll stay safe out there. I'll see you soon.